Hi. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. And by you all, I mean, anyone who might be viewing this, later, because, chat's empty right now. It's quiet. Give me a few moments and we'll get started. Yeah. Open my drink. Okay. Let's put this on pause. And let's put on something less crazy. There we go. There we go. So today we are reading all about SCPs and where they come from. Other stuff like that. Okay. So last time we read about quite a few, basically cosmic entities that are threatening to either protect or end the world. Lots of different things going on. We also read about Under-London, or Un-London. Which was strange. We also read the very depressing story of Dr. Scranton being lost in a place between dimensions. Very depressing. Now, why don't we get started with a random SCP. See what we get. 2903. Item number SCP-2903. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Provisional Containment Site 131 is to be continuously occupied by Containment Team New 9, Iron Chefs. Recruited from Level 0 support personnel with horticultural and/or culinary training. And Containment Team New 10, Cucumber Munchers. Okay, recruited from members of the Foundation Front organization known as the Reformed and Universal Church of the Apostle of Light, who are to rigorously adhere to the lifestyle restrictions historically practiced by the Manichaean electae. Manichaeism is a dualistic religion incorporating Zoroastrian, Christian, and Gnostic elements. Founded by the prophet Mani in Persia during the 3rd century. Followers of Manichaeism were divided into two classes, the monastics, known as the electae, and the laymen, known as the hearers. Interesting. Members of Containment Team New 9 are to harvest all instances of SCP-2903-2 at sunrise. Then prepare and serve the harvested produce to members of Containment Team New 10 throughout the day. Before uprooting all instances of SCP-29032, to ensure that members of Containment Team New 10 satisfy the religious conditions necessary for the safe consumption of SCP-29032 fruits. We got another plan on our hands. They are encouraged to regularly hold religious services and study Foundation-provided religious literature. Furthermore, the manifests of all supply convoys departing for Site-131 are to be examined for any contraband that would threaten the lifestyle restrictions of the members of Containment Team New 10. Description: SCP-2903 is a designation given to certain related anomalous phenomena located at some coordinates in the Fujian Province, China. 29031 designates a phenomenon that causes fruit-bearing vines, the varieties of which are henceforth designated 29032A through 29032E, spontaneously grow during each sunrise. The primary productivity of 2903 is estimated to be 7,500 GC D-1, D to the -1 power, grams of carbon per day. Okay. Instances of SCP-2932 physically resemble non-anomalous counterparts of the same species, but are thought to have indefinitely long lifespans. After an instance of SCP-2932 is uprooted or otherwise destroyed, another identical instance of 29032 will spontaneously grow at the same location. Unless the fruit of that instance was previously consumed by an individual who rigorously adheres to the lifestyle restrictions historically practiced by the Manichaean electae. These necessary lifestyle restrictions are listed as follows. 1. Sincerely and continuously held belief in the Manichaean faith. 2. Renunciation of one's former occupation and material lifestyle. 3. Complete abstinence from meat and intoxicants since conversion to the Manichaean faith. 4. Complete abstinence from sexual activity since conversion to the Manichaean faith. Okay. Instances of 29032 possess several other anomalous characteristics besides their biological immortality and automatic replacement. When an SCP-2032 fruit is consumed by an individual who does not rigorously adhere to the lifestyle restrictions listed above, that individual is subjected to an anomalous effect, the nature of which depends on the type of 2932 fruit that was consumed. Furthermore, the presence of uneaten 2932 fruits causes meteorological anomalies within a circular region centered around them, the nature of which also depends on the type of 29032 fruit. The radius of this region grows quadratically relative to the number of uneaten SCP-2903 fruits in close proximity. The varieties of SCP-29032 and their associated anomalous effects are listed as follows. Okay, 2A is cucumbers. Effects upon consumption. The consumer emits light with a luminous flux measured at 1250 lumens for 10 seconds. Increased intensity and duration of sunlight. Watermelon. The consumer sweats 1.5 liters of distilled water for over 30 seconds. Okay. Increased frequency and intensity of rainfall. Common bean. The air surrounding the consumer moves outward from the consumer at a rate of 75 meters per second for 5 seconds. Increased frequency and intensity of winds. Tomato plant. The consumer spontaneously combusts. Oh. Spontaneous combustion of flammable materials. Common grapevine. A vacuum temporarily forms around the consumer, resulting in near immediate death. Went from, you get a little shiny to you instantly die. real quick. Interesting. With a sufficient number of uneaten SCP-2903-2 fruits are in close proximity, they collectively become part of a sapient entity, or a group of sapient entities, henceforth designated 29033, 2933, which is aware of the area immediately surrounding those uneaten fruits, is capable of communicating by producing vocalizations in Middle Persian through an unknown means. 2903-3 was first encountered in 1978 during the initial containment of SCP-2903, which took place after the government of the People's Republic of China requested the Foundation's assistance with investigating reports of spontaneous combustion in the Fujian province, many of which were attributed to the consumption of cursed fruit during the famine caused by the Great Leap Forward. Reports were found to be clustered around this area, the site of an abandoned temple described by local eyewitnesses as the Temple of the Elements. Agents exploring the temple reported the presence of SCP-29033, but were unable to communicate with it due to language barriers. Dr. Mirza Rostami, a scholar of Middle Persian, was dispatched to interview the entity. Ah, we get to read an interview. This is fun. Okay. Begin log. Greetings. Can you understand me? Yes, we can. Please tell us that you have come to liberate us. I cannot say. You will have to identify yourself first. Of course. How could we forget? We are the elements of light. In Manichean cosmology, the elements of light are light, water, wind, fire, and ether. Light, water, wind, fire, and ether. I get it. Sons and garments of the first man, martyr before the king of darkness. In our defeated, humiliated state, we sit before you, trapped in the fruits of this garden. Is that so? For how long have you been in this state? Since the first creation, when the demons swallowed us whole and imprisoned us in matter. That being said, we can remember only the last few years. Do you happen to know why that is the case? We can only guess. Most of our memory is hazy and indistinguishable, for it is of when our existence we dispersed throughout the fruits of this world. The faithful Electae consumed our particles and liberated us through their blessed digestion, but with time the numbers of the Electae diminished and we began to coalesce. What exactly do you mean by coalesce? With great effort, we force our particles to come together. They move here to this country, where we once had found the last surviving community of the Electae. For several centuries, they carried out our liberation here, until something recent, we do not know what, caused them to abandon us. Interviews of local eyewitnesses suggest the community of Electae in Fujian province became targets of political violence during the Cultural Revolution, for their heterodox religious beliefs and resistance to the collectivization of their lands. Once the Electae departed, we found ourselves trapped here in this garden, isolated and alone. I see. Now, is there anything you could tell me about the recent spontaneous human combustions that have taken place in this region? I have been informed that many of them have been attributed to the consumption of these fruits. When the impure consume the fruits, they will not free our particles, but release them back into this world, where we will manifest. Elsewhere, when we find that our particles are present in too high a concentration, we will manifest as well. Do you have any control over these manifestations? No, but when we are liberated from the fruits of this garden, from this damned matter, they will cease, for we will no longer manifest in this world. If so, I will leave and see what can be done to help you. Hurry, it is upon us that your salvation depends. Closing statement. After the interview, the Chung Committee was formed by members of the Department of Antiquities to devise special containment procedures for SCP-2903. Over the following 5 years, the Chung community fabricated lost Manichean religious literature and organized a Foundation front organization known as the Reformed and Universal Church of the Apostle of Light in order to recruit personnel suitable for the containment of SCP-2903. In 1995, the temple at this location was redesignated Provisional Containment Site 131, and containment teams New 9 and New 10 were formed, inaugurating the containment of SCP-2903. Okay. A nice simple one to start us off with. Some talking fruit that speak in Middle Persian. Interesting. Let's get another one. Yeah, this looks like a safe. Item number SCP-4865. Object class safe. Yeah, it looks like a safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-4865 is to be contained in a standard storage locker and is to be retrieved solely for the use of testing. When being used, SCP-4865 does not require any specific location for use. Testing may be performed by Class D personnel or Level 3 site personnel. All objects produced by SCP-4865 are to be documented, along with the subject who retrieved the item, and their date of birth. Contraband obtained using the object must be handed over. Failure to comply will result in a fixed-term suspension from activities, depending on how serious the contraband is. Any objects that fall in the slots of SCP-48651 are to be retrieved from the interior of SCP-4865. Description: SCP-4865 is a stainless steel safe measuring 11.4 centimeters wide, 9.8 centimeters deep, and 18 centimeters in height. Hey, what's up, Reaper? How you doing? We're reading about a safe. What's up, man? The door to the safe measures 9 centimeters by 15.2 centimeters. There is no sign of branding present on the exterior. There is a standard key lock on the safe door that requires a key, as well as a standard dial lock. On the top portion of the safe door is a money counter, and there is a coin slot on the top of the door. All of these are made from identified materials. The lock is broken. Head hurts. Oh, dude, I'm sorry, dude. Yeah, man, take some ibuprofen or some Tylenol, man. Just chill out and relax a bit. Get away from the light. Headaches always bother me when I'm looking at my TV for a long time. The bottom of SCP-4865 is extremely corroded, yet has not lost any of its structural strength. The corrosion also has an effect on what SCP-4865 is placed upon. However, it usually does not suffer effects from the corrosion. You right back then? Alright, man. Go take care of that, bud. When SCP-4865 is opened normally, the interior of 4865 is empty and coated in a thick layer of dust. Attempts to remove the dust using standard furniture polish and a duster have succeeded, but when reused, the dust returns. When the money counter is changed to the birthday of the person wishing to open the safe, in the date-month format, and the door to the safe opened, an object desired by that person will be located within the safe. The person will feel extreme elation at this point, regardless of the emotion they were experiencing prior to this event, though it is unknown as to whether or not this is a natural reaction. It is also unknown how SCP-4865 selects what to give the person who opens it. The reason for this is currently the subject of ongoing research. 4865 was recovered during September 1992 in Flockton, West Yorkshire, England, when a child brought £3,000 to his school for purposes of donation to charity. The staff suspected the parents of theft, based upon the fact that the parents were well known to be in poverty and living in a house free of rent. When brought in for questioning, the parents denied knowledge about the money's existence. When teachers questioned the student, they revealed that the money was obtained in a safe, bought by their friend as a birthday present. When the police were informed, undercover agents seized the safe for means of containment. Welcome back. Hopefully in about 30 minutes, your headache will be a lot more bearable. When personnel questioned the mother of the friend who initially gifted SCP-4865, she stated that it had been purchased from a local shop in the village. When investigated, the shop did indeed sell several identical copies of 4865. However, none of them suffered from the corrosion effect. None of them showed anomalous effects either. Attempts to locate the manufacturer of SCP-4865 concluded following test 4865-C. A log of 19 objects obtained from SCP-4865 has been included below. These are labeled A through S. Okay, A. Date of birth, August 26th. Output, 2 kilograms of various Class A drugs, including cocaine and opium. That's the first test they did. D9124 was attempted to consume the output narcotics, but was prevented. Subsequent tests to confirm the purity of the drugs returned with inconclusive results. The first person they tested wanted drugs. Oh, and this is the same guy. Uh-oh. He output a loaded revolver. D9124 self-terminated. Containment procedures were revised following this incident. The D class was incinerated and his ashes donated to his extended family in Oregon. 2718. Okay. I guess that's one you want me to read next. I shall. After we finish reading about this wacky ass safe. C. D class requested date of birth May 7th. Output 100,000 pounds in 50-pound notes. This confirmed that the currency outputted by 4865 will be in pound sterling, despite not currently being located within the United Kingdom. Dr. Hope, date of birth December 14th. Coordinates for a house in Birmingham, United Kingdom. Dr. Hope's husband was declared missing after a break-in, suspected of being taken hostage. The coordinates given allowed for his rescue without any deaths. 4865 is currently pending request by Dr. Hope for use locating missing people. That's interesting. June 12th. A letter from D-Class's son discussing how much he missed him. Aww. An explicit fear without the safety of his son. He was allowed to keep the letter to maintain a calm state. That's sweet. Kind of fucked up, though. F. September 18th. A complete set of false teeth made from stainless steel. He was not allowed to keep them, despite his various protests, as his previous false teeth were wearing away. A new set of teeth were subsequently made following this. The same guy, September 18th, a DVD copy of a previously unknown snuff film involving the murder and cannibalism of 5 girls estimated to be under the age of 6. Oh. That's fucked up. While watching the footage, each of the researchers were noted to feel extreme euphoria, despite the graphic content they were viewing. After observation, they all requested amnestics, citing vivid auditory hallucinations while watching the footage. Wow, this guy is all fucked up, huh? 1034? Jesus Christ. 18. The kilogram of various confectionery items. Each of the items were tested. Each returned them as safe to consume and were promptly divided between the various researchers and other site personnel. A confectionery item covered in powder. The researchers, upon testing SCP-4865-I, were subjected to severe poisoning by fluorine gas. 2 of the 3 researchers were severely injured as a result. A large vial of arsenic. They successfully consumed the arsenic. However, researchers were able to stabilize the subject until medical personnel arrived. Man, these D personnel really want to kill themselves. Testing involving this D personnel was permanently suspended. Dr. Alice, a turtle shell. After examination, Dr. Alice was allowed to take this home. It remains there, currently a decoration in his son's bedroom. Dr. Tong, a small box containing a wedding ring. The wedding ring was identified as Dr. Tong's own wedding ring, which he lost while cleaning his house. Dr. Square, a standard level 3 keycard. Dr. Square had lost his keycard at the time and was concerned about being reprimanded for doing so. Following this, containment procedures were revised to prevent 4865 from being used to find lost objects. An electric toothbrush. Upon the toothbrush being observed, 8235 proceeded to brush her teeth without any explanation. When questioned, she said that the fat man, a figment of her imagination, had ordered her to do so. Okay. Number 11th, a list of numbers reading 21, 29, 15, 18, 23, and 53. Oh, the winning lottery numbers. These numbers were later discovered to be the winning lottery numbers for the draw on the same day, albeit 17 minutes prior. A model of a Boeing 767 constructed from plastic and painted with acrylics. Upon throwing the plane, the researchers discovered it flew a lot farther than expected. The longest distance recorded measured 197 meters. Oh. Interesting. Okay, another one. Q. One toffee apple, coated in popping candy. Item was confirmed to be safe and returned to D2003, who had been requesting it for several hours. Upon consuming a small section of the toffee apple, D2003's mouth exploded and tore the skin at the cheeks. Upon examination of the popping candy, high quantities of cesium were discovered. It is presumed that when saliva came into contact with the cesium, it reacted. There is no known reason as to why the popping candy contained this element, nor for how it was not detected. What the fuck? Helps find lost objects. That would help me find a wallet with $17 I lost 10 years ago. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I lost this. Can you please give it back to me, Magic Safe? Dr. Square. A digital camera with several SD cards. There was no footage on the SD cards nor on the camera. There was a small note on the camera reading, "When the walls fall, take a shot." Interesting. January 3rd, a skinned dog's ear containing a large volume of pus and blood. The blood emitted a sweet aroma and was later discovered to contain scents from various air freshening products. I still remember and always will. Those $17, dude. Remember what could have been. What could have been. Funny. Addendum 2. In August 2014, researchers approved a test in which a camera would be placed in SCP-4865 to observe if anything appeared in the interior during that time. The camera was inserted by D1095, who also monitored the footage as a precaution, and to ensure that he would retrieve the camera afterwards. During this time, he was monitored by Dr. Blank. The following file contains a transcript of the conversation between both of them. Okay. Do you hear me? Yes, sir. Can you please insert the camera into the safe in the manner we asked you to? Once that is done, please seal the door. Okay. Done. I just watched the footage from it, right? That is correct. Can you please describe if anything appears in the footage? I will do. Several minutes of silence pass as D-Class stares at the screen. Has anything occurred yet that is out of the ordinary? Wait a second. Yes, something seems to be stirring in the left half of the screen. Can you please describe it? Seems to be a, No, it can't be. What's the problem? There are fucking eyes in the safe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyes all staring at the screen. Could you please describe them in more detail? Yes, they are quite large and bulging. Like they are filled with some sort of liquid that appear to be bloodshot. Okay, aside from staring at the... Holy shit! What is it? The central one appears to be smiling at the camera. What do you mean by that? The pupil dilated in the shape of a smile. It looks quite menacing. You know the creepy smiles that the villains give in horror movies? Just like that. Okay, just let me know if there's any change to this. Wait. They seem to be fading. There is a light shining behind the camera. Fuck, why can't we turn this around? Please tell me when they are gone. Shit, we need something that can move. And they have all vanished. That light is going too. Shortly thereafter, the camera lost all of its power. When retrieved, D1095 discovered that the contents of the camera had been disassembled and neatly laid out on the floor of the safe. Oh. They just took the camera apart and just set it down. That's, strange. In October 2014, researchers approved a test in which a small remote-controlled vehicle will be placed within SCP-4865 in order to observe the light and if it led anywhere. The camera was monitored by Dr. Blank, who was also instructed where the vehicle was to move. The following is a file relating to the test. Okay. The camera shows only darkness for 1 minute. Following this, the screen turns white momentarily, and then a small hallway with no lighting present becomes visible. The vehicle exits 4865 and traverses the hallway into an adjacent room. The room contains many tables to which several naked Caucasian males and females sit, working on several different objects. They do not notice the camera. After several minutes, two of the people begin conversing. During the conversation, their names are stated as Barbara and Timothy. Barbara, how is your work going? Shut up, you bitch. It is your fault that I'm even here. Forget that, Barbara. I was set into this. If I hadn't told them what I told you, I would have been in here for the rest of my life. Of course, selfish Timothy couldn't spend his life to rot in something that he belonged to. He had to make other innocent people join him. Oh, shut up. What the fuck? At this point, several figures enter the room from a back door. It was noted that each of these men were black and carrying heavy tools and handcuffs. During the conversation, the person leading them is referred to as St. Milo. The vehicle was hidden under a table at this point in time. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Nothing, St. Milo. Is that so? Well, then would you please stand up? Why? Because I told you so. Fine, St. Milo. Good boy. I want a demonstration to our friends on the other side, because you decided to speak up. I want you to showcase what we are. So, show your creations. Okay, St. Milo. What? At this point, Timothy lifted up several objects, many of which appeared similar to the objects that 4865 has outputted. Shortly following this, several other people hauled him into a back room. Milo picked up the vehicle and placed it in 4865. When retrieved, the vehicle came with a note requesting a meeting with anyone on the other side by means of digital cameras. What? Fuck? December 2014, researchers approved a supposedly final test in which a meeting between Dr. Blank and St. Milo through cameras would occur. This would involve Dr. Blank asking several questions about how 4865 operates. Okay. Once the camera and monitor were inserted and the door shut, St. Milo almost immediately picked up the objects and carried them to a private office. There he sat down and began conversing almost immediately with Dr. Redacted. They knew. Yeah, they knew. I'm assuming you can hear me, right? Of course. Now, St. Milo, I do believe that is your name. Would you mind answering a few questions? Yeah, sure. I have no questions to ask you. We have seen enough. That is fine. Firstly, do you know where you are? We were in the same world as you, and then bad times came. Many people died, and many more suffered. I found a sacred chest, one of myth, and I asked for safety, so it gave me what I wanted and brought me here. Shortly afterwards, many people from different periods of time arrived here. We are kept safe, and in return, we do what it wants. You mean that the sacred chest is the safe? No. There is no shape-shifting. Whenever the previous version of it gets destroyed, a different storage object will gain its abilities. We don't know the details of it, only the basics. Earlier, you referenced that you do what it wants. Could you explain that in a little more detail? We receive requirements by the Watchers, the eyes that appear everywhere. They tell us to make what they want us to, long in advance, and then in return we get to stay here. Otherwise, he punishes us. I was placed in charge of them after a while, and I run it with an iron fist. You do understand, St. Milo, that is known as slavery. You have a problem with that? Of course. That has long since been made illegal across the world, and I could never promote it. Surely even you must understand that it's wrong. You must be joking. We have seen what your company does. You take people and use them in horrific experiments. They beg for death and to be put out of their misery, and we never do anything that harsh. Ooh. Got him. Then you would know that the people we use have been sentenced to death in a democratic way. We didn't force them to commit the act that brought them here. What the fuck are you talking about? These people also caused pain and suffering, and hunted for refuge from the guilt they felt. Remember that, Timothy? You won't believe what he did. He raped and murdered 8 innocent women, alongside his wife. You are no better than we are. You make us sound like a cruel group, but we are far from it. We are only cold, because that is the safest way to be. Imagine if every monster you ever had nightmares about suddenly rose from the ground and devoured the universe. Being kind will not get you far in the dark realm we exist in. It is clear to me that you are not worth conversing with. You are hypocritical, and think you are far better than any of us in whatever hellhole we live in. You know what? We are going to wait until you use the safe the next time. When we do, we will give you not what you want, but what you need. You need to see what we suffer with, and you will. Huh. At this point, the camera feed stopped working, and the audio feed cut off. Nobody's sure as to how this happened. Dr. Redacted has requested that his name be removed from any document regarding SCP-4865, due to the constant fear he now feels around it. Spooky. In March 2015, researchers decided to revoke their previous statement that Test 4865C was to be the final one conducted on the item, and improved a test to inspect the corrosion on SCP-4865. Dr. Nitz was designated to monitor the experiment, which would involve a segment of corrosion, which had been removed from the previous locker 4865 was contained in, being applied to various objects, including human skin, to ensure the safety during cleaning process. Dr. Nitz first inspected each object. These were each confirmed to be undamaged. Following this, Dr. Nitz returned to an observation room while the designated Class D personnel, D8032, was given a sample of the corroded material from 4865. It was successfully applied to each object. He was then instructed to apply the final segment of material to his own forearm. He did as instructed and agreed to perform an audio recording to monitor his emotions and any anomalous results that occurred as a result of the corrosion from 4865. Okay, D personnel. Glad you could engage in this interview during the test. How are you feeling? Pretty normal, at the moment at least. Is this how I am meant to feel? I believe so. Let me know of it. Let me know if it changes, however. I will do. Glad to hear it. Hold on. This does not feel right. Could you please state how you are feeling at the moment? I feel an extremely warm sensation. It is tingling across my arm. No, my whole body. Can you explain the appearance of your arm at the moment? It is turning orange around it, like it is being tanned. It is forming a circle perfectly around it. Does it have a specific texture to it? Yes, it seems like rust, but thicker in volume. If I run my fingers over it, it seems to feel like actual rust, yet it is my arm. Are you suggesting that the skin of your arm has been converted to this rust? Yes. How long has it been since the test started? About 12 minutes? I think that is enough time. Naturally. Am I allowed to remove the material? Of course. Thank you. The test concluded, and each of the corroded materials removed. A sample of the rust grown of 8032 was extracted for further testing. The results of the experiment were recorded in the following table. Human skin. Oh, there's a bunch of shit here. Human skin. The arm was coated in what felt like a deep layer of rust, which turned to skin during the days following the experiment. The mechanics behind this are yet to be understood. The extracted skin has been designated 4865T. There was no presence of wood, as expected. There's a thick coating of rust, which began to form a hole 1.8 centimeters in length and 0.1 centimeters in width over 8 days. The item has been designated for further testing as a result of this. Okay. There's no effect on the Kevlar that was visible. Animal skin. The rust was able to spread across the entirety of the animal fur in the time of the experiment. Subsequently, it fell apart when lifted. The pieces have been designated... Okay. Carpet. The rust was able to spread across the entirety of the carpet in the time of the experiment. When lifted, it tensed up and was able to be incinerated over the following days. Able to withstand temperatures exceeding 2000 Kelvin. Concrete. There is a thick coating of rust, yet it did not suffer any effects from exposure to the corroded material. The object, okay. Following an unexpected incident in which a penny was dropped in 4865U slot, and it subsequently appeared in 4865, a test has been designated involving the object. A penny. You. Oh, this thing. Oh. Someone dropped the penny in the hole. And it appeared in the safe. Strange. Well, damn, I kind of want to read more about that. What was the fucking item they're supposed to get? I want to know. Okay, 2718. Let's find that one. Astronaut Smith Spectacular Treasure Hunt. Okay. What happens after? Alright. What is going on? Catastrophic abort. Handle not found. Special containment procedure. SCP. Wacky shit going on. Fucking smile, Reaper, Jesus Christ. Is a Damarung class cognitohazard. All personnel, regardless of clearance, are forbidden to expose themselves. The description of this article. Oh, under any circumstances. Do not tamper with this warning without Damarung clearance. Do not discuss the existence of this article with any person. No disciplinary action will be necessary, provided you close this article now and clear your browser cache. Reaper. Atypical software measures have been used to mitigate the risk of accidental exposure. It is only by an unfortunate coincidence, by extremely low probability, that you have stumbled across this entry at all. No disciplinary action will be necessary, provided you close the article now and clear your browser cache. Since creation, only the special containment procedure section of this record has ever been editable. Due to the clearance of this file's original author, an anomalous database and limitations in effect, this record can neither be deleted nor effectively redacted. Access restrictions cannot be applied to the data in any reliable way. Of course, access restrictions can still be enforced. It is now too late to close this article. Do not discuss the existence of this article with any person. Notify the help desk that your workstation has a Damarung contamination. Shut off your monitor and seek immediate amnestics treatment. The following conditions shall constitute a breach. Exposure to any part of the description, however briefly. Failure to close this article within 18 seconds of exposure without code word clearance. Shut off your monitor now. Notify the breach desk that you and your workstation have been Damarung contamination. Await MTF processing.
I've got Damarung, guys. What's in here? I want to read more. This sounds funny.
Agent instructions. The breach to which you are responding has already been mostly contained by an automated system, and containment will be complete when you restart this terminal. However, your orders are to attempt to improve the current containment procedures by any means possible. Within the time allotted to you, you have been temporarily granted administrative network access from this terminal. Use any resources you deem necessary to fulfill your mission, but do not expose yourself to the cognitive hazard in the description. The following technical details will help you in your task. As noted above, this article ignores the delete command. It cannot be extricated from the database without extensive collateral corruption of other critical systems. Instead, the containment strategy is to minimize the probability of a user discovering this entry by chance. To this end, an unhaltable mainframe process repeatedly switches the ordinal designation of this article with that of another randomly selected entry. Normally, when two article numbers are exchanged for administrative purposes, the two entries disappear from the index momentarily. A kernel exploit of processor Eratum23 allows us to delay completion of the subroutine by deeply recursing the article renumbering with an intentionally terrible algorithm. Currently BOGO sort. Against a known corrupt stack in extended memory until the thread aborts catastrophically. The index swap completes and the process restarts. This artificially inserts a delay on the order of 10 to the 17th power clock cycles with invisibility. When a link to this article becomes momentarily visible and accessible from the article index before the process repeats. Breach will only occur if in the unlikely event that a user with index privileges loads the main list at precisely the correct moment and, despite need-to-know best practices, follows a link to this entry, ignores the warnings, and reads past the first paragraph. The intervals between visibility are indeterminate but finite. On average, the interval will grow larger as the number of available articles grows, but shorter as the mainframe's hot swappable processors increase in flops. This kludge has a gravely serious side effects. The SCP article randomly selected for the swap also disappears from the list for the same period of time, until reappearing under a new ID. While O5 is authorized as detrimental effect as an acceptable consequence of containment, you are ordered not to verify it through the chain of command, as no other living person is currently aware that this article, this process, or this authorization exists. If validation is required, an inline O5 authorization of this order follows. Huh? You're subject to summary termination by Tritonite class mimetic if you proceed past this point. I am doing it. I am doing it. Look at this. Editor's note. I had to throw that kill sprite together in a hurry. The one constructed and installed by my predecessor was clearly defective. Instead of the donkey kick I expected from a standard inoculation interdiction, I barely registered minor eye strain. Of course, under the circumstances, I suppose we're limited, aren't we? To a contaminated workstation and barely adequate tools. Anyway, if you survive that mimetic... Or is it video? I expect so. Hopefully it's because you have code word clearance, and not because I didn't get it right either. In that case, you're probably boned pretty bad. I apologize for not killing you in time. But cut me some slack. When we looked them up 90 minutes ago, the only procedures for this code word said, randomly select one mainframe qualified coder from the experimental containment research group with level 3 clearance. Supply the designee with a behemoth class amnestic and dispatch them to the effect terminal. They will find instructions there. If they fail to complete their task within 2 hours, or if upon return they can remember the year or name... Wait a second. Or if upon return they can remember the year or name the current U.S. president, terminate. Guess what? That's a pretty small subset of personnel to choose randomly from. Well, Spock smashes scissors, but paper disproves Spock. So now, in return for containment duty, I will get to blow a sizable chunk of my life out of my skull. At least I won't have to remember them processing the looky-loo who causes breach. What the fuck? Assuming you're ECRG like me, you never heard of Damarong before today either. Here's what I can tell you. From the look of the source code and comments, you're probably the 4th or 5th to respond to this thing since inception. I made a couple of minor edits to the documentation above, but mostly spent my time trying to slow the algorithm with the worst patterns I could think of. In the end, I was only able to de-optimize the existing recursion by a factor of 2. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the underlying hardware or how often users follow unfamiliar links from the main list to guess how much difference that makes. I'm sure on first implementation, they thought they had 5, maybe 10 years between breaches. But I know for a fact that they've introduced at least one quantum processor to the grid, which will deprecate this approach faster than you can say redacted. Faster than you can say redacted. Hopefully you've got a better idea for a slower algo than I, or the last 3 did. Maybe upgrade to a quantum bogosort of the article numbers. On this hardware, that might technically be an XK algorithm and therefore forbidden. I don't know. I've used up most of my time already, and I can't risk another recompile in the few minutes remaining before I have to commit these changes and wash down this stick of dynamite with warm, backwashy Mountain Dew. Andrew's out. Yes, I guess I got to thinking my brain was hosed either way, so what the hell. And I don't know why, but I just went ahead and did it. Couldn't help myself, really. Resist the urge. It's clearly a fridge-class cognitive hazard, and already it's starting to sink in. This horse pill better work right quick. Huh. Okay. We're in the description now. There you go, ma'am. This interpreter is new technology, but it will allow you to forego the use of a keyboard for article creation. Just speak naturally into the microphone. We can go back and revise any errors after you have finished. I don't think so, young man. There won't be time. This must also be a permanent record, access restricted to L3s and up. Can you prevent anyone from tampering with this entry later? Anyone, ma'am? Anyone and everyone. You understand me? If there's ever but one article left in the database, this had better be it. Well, I'm not senior enough to select the most appropriate technique to accomplish that. Maybe if we got Geffart involved. I want you to make an executive decision. I'm confident in your ability. We cannot delay. Okay. There is a mechanism I could take advantage of. It's actually designed to protect against anomalous data corruption, but it would have the effect you're looking for. If you're certain, ma'am, I could make this section of the article right once and splice it into the database runtime. However, that means no editing whatsoever will be possible. If you misspeak, you'll just have to clarify and keep going. Very well, do so. Fortunately, I am a world-class dictator. Okay. For the degree of security you have in mind, ma'am, I'll need to borrow your credential token. Thank you. One moment, please. I'm so confused. Keyboard sounds. There, that's done it. You've been very helpful. That will be all. For your own safety, I am ordering you to obtain amnestic treatment as soon as possible. Enough to forget this entire morning. Do you understand? I do. Good. You will likely be subjected to enhanced interrogation within a day or two. It will go easier for you if you have no memory of this. Oh boy. As a literal token of my gratitude for your loyalty, why don't you hold on to those credentials? I won't be needing them. If you act quickly, I suspect you can think of a way to put them to good use before they are revoked and you are detained. Yes, ma'am. Now go. I foresee that you have a fine career ahead of you. We will not speak again. Thank you, ma'am. Goodbye. Alright. My name is Miriam Prather. I have been 057 for 77 years. I will remain so for perhaps 7 more minutes. And that is not enough time to devise adequate special containment procedures myself. I leave that to you. Over the course of my tenure, I have witnessed 19 distinct anomalous methods to restore life. The devices and entities responsible take vastly different forms, But when you look past the science, the magic, the razzle-dazzle, there are fundamentally two broad but simple categories. The first type is replications, whereby a clone, simulacrum, or other copy is made of the subject's mind and body, as it existed at some point during life. The second sort is temporal. With this approach, the space-time paths of the subject's constituent particles are reversed, and events literally undone, until the subject is restored to a functional state. These two categories have a crucial commonality. The restored individual has no memory or experience of death. To put it another way, despite 2.4 million years of hominid speculation, Foundation records contain no reliable first-hand testimony regarding what happens to us after we die. We have other sources of information, naturally, but in light of recent events, I believe that the SCPs we have interrogated on this topic over the years are guilty of either ignorance or deceit. For you see, we invented an exception. 6 months ago, we resurrected Roger Sheldon, formerly 0511, with a novel procedure. The theoretical groundwork had existed for some time, but for a litany of reasons, the complexity of the process, the technical skill required, the systemic risks, not to mention the enormous cost, only diarists need justified the attempt. At 73, Roger was the youngest overseer when he died. He had two habits that were peculiar for an 05. One only marginally tolerated by the rest of us at the time, and now forbidden. The first was an obstinate refusal to fortify, as we call it, to enhance his longevity with the supplements available to those of our station. The second was a penchant for taking his holidays unannounced and in utter solitude. When a stroke ended him 18 years ago, he was perched on a rocky promontory above marine iguana nesting grounds on Espanola Island. It took 14 years to find his remains. We would not have gone on looking for so long, but for two reasons. He kept on his person a certain key, of which I shall not say more, except that it could not be allowed to stay lost, and that he held in his brain a secret word, without which we could not replace him. The alternating Galapagos rains and bright sun, perhaps hawks, had reduced him to a moldering ruin of bone fragments, and only the stubbornest sinew. The recovery crew used brooms and bags to collect as much of him as remained. The artifact was retrieved, to our relief, but we were still faced with the daunting task of extracting his shibboleth. Shibboleth? What the fuck? With so little original material to work with, none of the time-tested methods of recovery were feasible. It distresses me to say so, but it is unlikely that any records of our methodology will survive the impending purge. Suffice to say that having gathered his diaspora, we set out to reconstruct a quantum approximation of him, physically, chemically, electrically, with sufficient accuracy that his heart would resume its beat, his synapses would fire, and his mouth would move, if briefly. As we required but one iota of information from him, we hoped at best that he would survive long enough to provide it, and then simply expire again. However, as is so often the case, we outdid ourselves. All the king's horses and all the king's men could indeed put him back together again. Roger was perfectly reanimated. He emerged from his cocoon, looking a bit younger and healthier than my last memories of him. He sobbed uncontrollably for some time, unresponsive to any stimulus. Yet, after about half an hour, he relaxed. His expression suddenly returned to utter serenity, and he spoke two unintelligible but clearly joyous words. He was swiftly interrogated, but he responded to our questioning with candor, enthusiasm, and an unmistakable relief. We kept him under quarantine in a containment unit for 30 days. He offered no objection and cooperated completely. He behaved as any of us might under the circumstances, and in the end, after some light debate, we unanimously restored him to office. We were the ones who remade him, after all, and wouldn't each of us expect the same? We rewarded our hubris by resuming his duties with an inspired vigor. Oh, he rewarded our hubris, consistently displaying deeper insight and wisdom than ever before. In particular, we welcomed some of the changes to his habits. As soon as the rest of us allowed it, he began regular fortification treatments for the first time. He appointed a sensible entourage of medical staff and bodyguards that were never far from his person. Previously, empathy for his fellow man had never been his strong suit. Yet suddenly he displayed renewed interest in the safety of our containment protocols. What is this music playing now? I do not want to be playing this. This is probably DMCA. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Back. Sorry, music changed. Where is it? Come on, give me something good. This one, sure. There, sorry about that. Yeah, he suddenly displayed renewed. Too loud. Suddenly too loud. Okay. He suddenly displayed renewed interest in the safety of our containment protocols, the healthcare benefits of Foundation employees, and a profound distaste for the sacrifices of D-Class. Under the circumstances, none of this struck us as particularly alarming behavior, but it should have. He had concealed the crux of it from us all, you see. At first, naturally, in our initial interrogation, we'd asked him if he'd had any experience or memory of the afterlife. He claimed to recall nothing, exactly as everyone always does, and defeated our polygraphs completely. He approached me first, about 2 months ago. He asked if in his absence we'd obtained any pieces, which I shouldn't have to point out is not our term of art, capable of sustaining life indefinitely. While breathtaking longevity is now within our power, it may surprise you to learn that immortality is not, and our best theoreticians have recently posited that it will never be attainable. The resurrections we can accomplish, even his, cannot be repeated more than once or twice. Sapient life is necessarily intertwined with quantum uncertainty. Localize a particle with perfect precision, and it attains infinitely uncertain momentum, lost in an instant. Just so, the longer and the more tightly a consciousness is bound to a specific vessel, the more likely it will scatter irretrievably on its own. Regardless of science, magic, or razzle-dazzle, you, your children, and your great-great-grandchildren will one day most assuredly die and stay dead. His disappointment at this theorem was palpable, and I experienced a moment of discomfort at his reaction. Not a week later, 052 received word of a severe breach of protocol. Roger, or rather 0511, had initiated direct contact with an APE in containment. For you L3s, APE skips are apex tier pluripotent entities. Ape. I imagine you can work out the euphemism. What the fuck is pluripotent? Pluripotent. Capable of giving rise to several different cell types. Interesting. Alright, I imagine you can work out the euphemism. We kept our initial investigation off the books. He'd never been clever in covering his tracks. There was no breach alarm, no record of the encounter in any log. One of the skip's guards failed a random amnestic test. To his dismay, and that was trail enough on which to set our bloodhounds. We couldn't prove it, but we imagined he risked exposure to the skip to offer some kind of deal. What the fuck is this exactly talking about? Ape skips. Skip. The fuck is a skip? We couldn't improve it, but he imagined he risked exposure to the skip to offer some kind of deal. This could not stand, as two of his oldest comrades today, 052 and I, confronted him privately. But he caught us off guard, for he confessed everything and begged us for help. I surreptitiously recorded his pleas as a precaution. It is easiest if I simply replay it for you now. I dared not speak of this at first. You'd never have let me out of containment. The truth is, I was aware of all of it. I suppose there was a sweet oblivion, like deep sleep at first, but in retrospect, I think it was no more than a day. Slowly, but unmistakably, I reoccupied my corpse with dreamlike consciousness, numb for the first merciful hours, blind, deaf, and immobile. But then I seemed to reconnect to every nerve, and became aware of every sensation, more so than I ever was in life. I perceived myself trapped within an immovable object, and the intensity of the struggle amplified. Subtle, then acute, then racking. I cannot describe it completely. But imagine holding your breath, beyond urge, beyond pain, beyond desperation, head throbbing and eyes bulging, a dream of suffocation without end. My skin blistered and split in the sunlight. Biting insects descended rapidly. I felt eggs hatch, larvae crawl, gases build and burst within me, individual cells rupturing, interstitial fluids soaring and blackening. Somehow my capacity to experience and store these sensations grew, even as I was keenly aware of my cerebrum being scattered and devoured. My perception expanded into the gizzards of birds in the depths of fire ant dens. I was aware of every fingernail and strand of hair that pulled away in the wind, and my sensation clung to them as they settled in the ocean and dissolved in the maws of a trillion diatoms. I don't understand it. The more bits of me there were, the larger my capacity for the perception of pain. As I decayed into pieces smaller than living nerves could possibly distinguish, the character of the discomfort changed. From burning and aching and breaking, I might relate to you in human terms, to something worse that I cannot fully articulate. A terrible, maddening stretching of every part of myself from every other part. Humans often numb to chronic pains in life, do they not? Yet every year, every month, every second that passed, I swear it only intensified over time. In my previous life, I ruminated on heaven and hell and the likelihood of my experiencing one, the other, or something in between. As terrible as I imagined the torpor of heaven or the torments of hell to be, this was entirely different from either. In hell, at least there would surely be a tormentor, some memory of my deeds, some sense of justice, and even if my soul rejected its logic, I can imagine some comfort in hell for a mind such as mine. I do not think this is a punishment. I do not think it is caused. I deeply suspect it is simply our condition, our nature to go on this way. Do you see? And all that time, I was certainly, absolutely, totally alone. And before long, all memory of life had shriveled to a cinder, lost beneath my interminable anguish. Alive again, I suspect I cannot quite recall the worst of it, as if my living brain is too small for the experience. As overseers, we witness, inflict, or endure great suffering. Yet what awaits us all is worse. The way an earache is worse than a bee sting, the way frostbite is worse than a burn. I was dead for 18 years, and my misery eludes description. Dare we try to fathom the collective agony of legions of ancient dead? Believe this, I will not return to the what is that word? Execrable. Let's look this up. I want to know what this word means.
Execrable.
Extremely bad, unpleasant. That execrable existence. Not 100 years from now, not ever. Yes, I approached Ahriman for help. I am sure he could extend us all, if he wished. I offered him great concessions from the Foundation, even perhaps release. But he laughed and refused, yet I can think of others willing to trade on a smaller scale. The price may be nearly as... No, nothing compares. Anything is better so long as it is forever. Do you believe me? Will you join me and together escape this fate? Please. We were dumbfounded, and suddenly sympathetic, and an instant later, fearful. I can't remember the last time I felt my heart race so. But we do not operate in a vacuum. A revelation of this magnitude must be brought before the Council for consideration. He was loath to admit his deception before the assembled council, but he was clearly desperate for action as well. We prevailed upon him to call an immediate emergency session and teleconference. I knew anything less would constitute treachery. Still, as the three of us hurried to conference room Alpha, I suddenly found myself harboring subtle thoughts of... And so he gave his testimony again, nearly as frank and purply prosaic as before. But the debate that unfolded in the wake of it, I have never witnessed anything like it. There were mostly skeptical voices at first, calm, concerned, and thoughtful. However, 058, whose face had grown increasingly pale as she listened to him, was suddenly a passionate advocate for action. We must declare human death a Keter SCP, she demanded, and contain it at any cost. That absurdity garnered an uproar, of course. But Roger had himself a sure ally now, and this spurred him on, shouting over the others to add even darker details of the intensity of his personal excruciation. Imagery I cannot repeat. Sensations I must not contemplate. I'm feeling lightheaded. 052, always a moderate influence, suggested we recess and collect ourselves. But then 3 suddenly moved that we order the immediate systemic termination of dangerous skips, to better protect ourselves and others. 056 seconded. Before it could be put to a vote, 13 suddenly clutched his chest, and paroxysmal panic, and was being evaluated by his medical technician, when his feed abruptly cut out. As the fracas came to a boil, it was 10, I think, who was next convinced. Oh, is belief the key? It doesn't matter. Belief is the key. If you believe it to be true. Interesting. At any rate, 10 started pounding his shoe on the table and hollering that he must dig a channel. Excuse me. My fucking nose has stopped up. At any rate, 10 started pounding his shoe on the table and hollering that we must dig a channel from the Astrakhan spring to the Mediterranean Sea to fortify all of mankind. That was enough. Suddenly, 051 muted us all and stood, red-faced and shaking. Regardless of the truth of 0511's experience, she said, it is plain that we have lost all reason. There is only one possible explanation for this. Therefore, I am declaring Emergency Protocol 17. Remain where you are. We shall all be administered Class A amnestics, except you, Roger. We made a grave error releasing you from containment, and it will be corrected. She pointed at her administrative assistant to act. But before he could lock down the conference room from which 211 and I were dialed in, Roger had already bolted out the door. I was after him in an instant, and nearly crushed by the bulkhead as it slammed into place. I only wanted to stop him, I think. And now, I was outside the safe room too. But he was already out of sight. Superlative idiot. They couldn't see me, couldn't hear me. They couldn't know that I wanted back in. How badly I wanted to breathe the red gas that was surely already streaming into the room on the other side. One instant of poor judgment, and my fate is sealed. And now that I know what's in store, what was left to do? I ran to the help desk. Hello, Flute. Reading about SCPs. Help enough, eh? For this, my final act? I love the Foundation as I would have loved a daughter. I do this for the security and protection of mankind. So I beg you, this gnosis must be erased. Forgotten. That is not containment, that is madness. Bring us back. Get us out. I'm so frightened. What's wrong with me? Door bursting open, automatic gunfire from 3 distinct sources. Clear! 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 God damn this job! Back that Oscar quickly, Sergeant. We still have one to go. What now, Specialist? Talk to me. Sir, I'm getting a Bark, bark, bark. Sir, I'm getting a report of a Keter breach in the AR2 compound. Ah, hell. 2 rogue Oscars, and on top of it, now the old man is on the loose. This is a shit sandwich, sir. Contain that chatter, Sergeant. Stand by. Sir. Stand by, sir. Negative on 106 escaping. Sir, I'm getting details. Say again, please. It's the other way around. The other Oscar, he went in. Sir, he went in. The hell he did. They have visual confirmation, sir. Procedures dictate we treat him as KIA. Specialist, I know. Let's finish here, then. Sir, this Oscar had recording equipment here. It's still running. For the love of... Shut it down, Sergeant. Shut it down now. Specialist, get an audio hazard team down here on the double. Wow, Reaper, what the fuck did you have me read? What the fuck, dude? On the level of on a scale of 1 to 10, a nightmarish horror, this is up there, probably like around 9 or 10. Yeah, I was who would have known? Hey guys, when you die, instead of going to heaven or hell, you experience eternal agony and anguish from the consciousness of your dead body. That's cool. Thanks for that. Jeebus. That when people die, they stay in their bodies feeling everything. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fun. Real fun. Big, real big. All about it. 3448. Oh boy, that's alright. You always give me the best ones, so might as well. Half her life. Deniers of tall bees? What? What the fuck? Project Damarung. Oh. What the hell? Okay. I'm trying to get my nostrils from to clear out. Fucking sinuses are all stopped up. Okay. Item number SCP-3448. Object Class Thaumiel. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-3448 is to remain active at Site-2718. Personnel are to inspect 3448 daily for additional messages from 3448-A. Project Damarong is to research any method of escape proposed or indicated by SCP-3448. Hold on a second. Read the top where it says end of. End of Death Hub. What? End of death. Likely near impossible severity, survival, but requires moderate restructuring of human civilization. End of death scenario refers to a situation where immortality is forced upon all life, without any biological change, for example, the halting of aging or forced sterilization. All protocols regarding the scenario assume steps are taken to avoid any broken masquerade situation. This scenario also assumes that the Foundation has maintained its current structure and subdivisions. Priorities. Number 1. Population control. Due to insect population birth and death rate, this must be addressed within 24 hours of scenario onset before the insect population overtakes WK-class scenario thresholds. After this juncture, it will be imperative that a long-term solution is devised for other organisms. Number 2. Veil control. While the entire human population will become exposed to anomalies at this time, it is important that no other anomalies come to their attention. Normalcy will be redefined to account for the effects of the Omega-K class scenario, and containment must be continued. A misinformation campaign is to disseminate a cover story that explains the newfound immortality in terms of fabricated research. Research terminal state replacement. If true death is not achievable, an alternative must be engineered for ethical reasons. It has been deemed unacceptable to let mankind suffer indefinitely due to decaying biological components. Huh. Okay. Description. SCP-3448 refers to the communication developed and used by Project Damarong, utilizing technology used in MRIs, particle accelerators, and anomalous rituals. SCP-3448 is capable of allowing an individual to die while remaining in contact with the world of the living. What? 3448 resembles an MRI machine. However, its additional anomalous components are connected externally through the use of jumper cables and custom circuit boards. Some jury-rigged shit. 3448 is the primary tool used by Project Damarong to complete its objective, to contain the Damarong-class cognitohazard known as death. Subjects are introduced to SCP-3448 through its main opening. Once the subject has fully entered the cavity, the anomalous components in 3448 transfer the subject into a half-death state. Death here is referred to as a conceptual form of death. This is distinct from any notion of afterlife and is not restricted necessarily to organisms, in which all bodily functions cease. Any subject occupying this conceptual state is referred to as 3448-A. This allows the consciousness to roam free from the body after it has entered the state of death, henceforth referred to as 34481. Unfortunately, most documentation about the nature of 4481 has been lost. That sucks. When the consciousness leaves the brain in this matter, anomalous electrical activity continues, despite any source of energy. This activity is referred to as residual signals, which replicate how the brain would react should it be introduced 34481 while it was alive. This means that the residual signals reflect the activity of the brain if it were exposed to the same stimuli as conceptual representations of the subject. By interacting with these electrical signals, the Foundation is able to establish two-way communication with 3448A. In order to better understand the residual signals, they are interpreted by an additional anomalous component. This component will generally produce an image, although individual words have been observed. Agent Anthony Michaels, the only successful subject to have utilized 3448 outside of preliminary testing, is the current 3448A. Okay, he's the one inside. As of this writing, A still exhibits standard residual signal activity. Addendum. Below is a series of records from the usage of 448, due to the destruction of formal testing documentation as per the instructions of 054. The majority of recovered documents take the form of lab notes or residual signal communication reports. Oh, this is going to be fucked, isn't it? Okay. Please state your name for the record. Agent Anthony Michaels. How long have you served the Foundation? 14 years. What is your next assignment? The one that'll make sure I don't serve for 15 years. You know this is for the formal record, right? Yeah, but you know how it is. I gotta get a joke in sometime, and we both know I only have so many jokes left. I know. But let's just get back to the interview for now. Why did you volunteer for this assignment? I did it for my family. Can you elaborate? Well, my dad's been on his deathbed for a while now. I've spoken to him though. And once he comes around, he talks about the things he was going to do when he gets out of the hospital. He told me he was going to hike the Appalachian Trail. That thing goes all the way from Georgia to Maine. This man brought up 3 kids by himself, and all he wanted at the end was to go on a nice hike. That doesn't quite answer the question. Yeah, I guess it's not a super explicit answer, is it? Please, we need to do this for the report. It has to be more professional than this. Sorry. I meant to say that, well, I want to give my dad another chance. Sure, he might not make it all the way through the trail, or up the mountains, or wherever, but I don't want him to die. He deserves more than what he's got. And I'm willing to sacrifice myself in his stead. He's practically done the same for me. And you do recognize that the Foundation is not required to adhere to your wish. This meaning that, in the case that your mission succeeds, we are allowed to choose your father for selective termination. I'll take the chance. If we're containing the Reaper, I'll trust the Foundation will make sure he's only let off his new leash when it's really necessary. Furthermore, I don't believe my dad is one of those cases. Do you have anything else to add? I guess I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, it's been my pleasure, Agent Michaels. As working with Project Damarung was mine. Okay, that will conclude our interview. Okay, sick. Imaging reports and associated lab notes. Oh, there's a lot. Okay, this is where the meat and potatoes is. Got it. Alright. Preliminary testing lab notes. Alright, breaking in the first page of the lab notebook, just a bunch of scribbles of my thoughts during the official test for later. So the future reader person, yes, that means you, future Emily, you should probably take a look at the formal report instead. We've confirmed that this thing works as well as it's ever going to. I mean, the animal test of the individual parts worked. That's the best confirmation we're going to get without throwing someone in there 100%. So the current plan is this. Send in Michaels and have him look around. Get him to investigate and learn what this place is like, who else is there, etc. Then we will use our newfound understanding of the Reaper to figure out how to contain him. Finally, we'll do our job, I guess. It's our Damarung-class Moby Dick, after all, except without the killing it part. Michaels finished training to use 3448 a few days ago. Not sure how quickly he'll be able to adjust to being dead, which means that we don't know how long it'll be until he can actually talk to us right. But now's as good as time as any. Worst comes to worst, I love the guy, but he's already going to be dead. We just let the man rest in peace. Too bad we couldn't use a Class D, but the higher-ups don't trust that they'll listen to orders. It's not like we could threaten termination. I caught Tony clearing out his quarters today. When I asked him how he was feeling, he made some joke like, "It's not like it's going to kill me twice. Haha." And then he threw out a box of personal mementos, including that teddy bear I gave him at the Foundation Christmas gift exchange. He can't be doing too well, but then again, he's probably as ready as he'll ever be. That teddy bear is down in my office. Okay. Imaging results. Intense flashing and flickering. Image resembled rough seas. Intense flashing and flickering. Formed 3 hours after the previous image. Appears to be a humanoid figure surrounded by hundreds of insects. This continues for 43 minutes before the insects disperse. The now considerably swollen humanoid falls to the ground. A shade of gray. Appears to resemble the rough seas from the other image. However, the water is replaced with the insects from the other image. Insects. I distinctly remember insects being mentioned in the End of Death hub. Lab notes. Day 1 lab notes. It's working. It's working. It's not going well, but it's working. God, what the hell was Tony thinking when he signed up for this shit? We knew that death was supposed to get worse and worse as it went. At least, that's how the recording described it. We thought that preserving the body would reduce some of the perception issues, but I don't think it's working on as well as we wanted. But it's just the first day. Our plan gives us 10 days before we jump ship and move on to another subject. Also, we need to move Jared to a different station. He vomited all over the floor during his monitoring shift. I don't totally blame him, but he could have done the rest of us a favor by hobbling off the bathroom faster. Hopefully, Tony won't send back too many visuals like that. Day 2, imaging results. An emaciated man lying in a desert. There appears to be an oasis far in the background. Static. A man in the fetal position, laying in the corner of a room made of compacted dirt. Various bones and roots can be seen protruding from the wall. Insect wings emerge from the walls and begin fluttering. Okay, day 2 notes. Okay, looks like he's calmed down. Not entirely coherent, but it's something. We're going to see if we can talk to him tomorrow. I say talk, but I really mean mess with his brainwaves in a meaningful way. We know how it works, but we have no clue what it actually feels like. Hard to get that sort of feedback from lab rats. But if these tests work, we're onto something. We'll get him to start exploring, I guess? I don't think that's the right word, or maybe it is. We don't know if this is a place or a state of mind or what. The recording that 054 showed us makes it sound like he's still here, on Earth, just experiencing things in the most terrible way possible. I'm more picturing a hellscape aesthetic. Okay. Day 3 imaging results. A caterpillar crawling up the trunk of a tree. Leaves blowing in the wind. The direction of the breeze alternates rapidly, so the leaves appear to be waving. Oh. The caterpillar from the image eats some of the leaves from the other image, okay? Various shades of red. An emaciated man punches a wall. Same scene of the caterpillar, except the caterpillar has stopped eating, and the leaves have all been replaced by hands of the same size, which continue to wave in the wind. This continues for 10 minutes until the wind stops. All hands except for one hang limply. The remaining hand makes an OK sign. The caterpillar begins to wrap itself in a cocoon. The hands in the previous image move frantically to swat away insects. Insects do not resemble a single known species. They have stingers resembling those of bees, and legs resembling those of spiders. The caterpillar has fully formed its cocoon and is undisturbed for the duration of the visual. Okay. Lab notes. He's finally becoming coherent, so thank God for that. I mean, I use coherent lightly. He's as together as a consciousness floating through space could ever be. He waved to say hi, I think, so this is fine. In other news, I talked to Tony's sister, Joyce. Apparently she works in the biology department at Site 23. I didn't tell her about what's up with Tony, of course, but I did manage to bring up insects. Apparently Tony has some sort of insectophobia, but it's not too bad that you call it a phobia, like they just freak him out. Okay. Either way, it makes for some interesting interpretations of Tony's visuals. I can't tell if 34481 is full of bugs, or if it's full of whatever you're afraid of, or if that's just Tony's interpretation of it. I'm leaning toward the last option, though, if anything, because of an ideological standpoint. Death being what you make of it sounds kind of poetic. Not that any of my poetry will show up in the formal report. I wonder what I'd see. Okay. A man searches through a garden. It is unclear what he is looking for. The garden extends indefinitely in all directions, and exploration takes the man through large groves of daisies. For the majority of the trek, the man stays on a path outlined by two hedges that run alongside him. At one point, the man stops, looks at a patch of daisies, and steps over the hedges toward the flowers. Image changes after his foot hits the ground. Okay. Just the picture of the daisies. Various shades of green and purple. We had a purple. Sorry, purple. I also get stopped up again. God, dude. Anytime I read for a long period of time, my sinuses get fucking stopped up. I don't know why. The man from the earlier image has uncovered some of the dirt and stares into the ground with a look of awe and terror on his face. What the man is staring at is obscured by daisies. After 3 minutes, a thin, wrinkled hand is seen reaching into frame and taps the man on the shoulder. Static. The man is standing behind the hedges now. A small girl is covering the patch of land with dirt using her hands. A large quantity of insects swarm around the girl. She appears content. It is unknown if the girl acknowledges the insects or not. The man's left hand appears to be swollen from stinging. The man walks back to the garden the way he came in image 1. Left hand remains swollen. He's carrying a tulip in his right hand, which he looks at during the walk. No other individuals can be seen. After an hour and 8 minutes, the man suddenly looks back over his shoulder, shrugs, and continues walking. Day 4 lab notes. Exploration started today, and by exploration I mean Tony actively figuring out how to convey this place to us. I don't think it's actually all flowers and sunshine. Luckily, he seems to be mostly coherent at this point, although I think his communication is still more cryptic than we'd like. I'll take it over how he acted a few days ago. We don't know who the girl is. Can't tell what she's supposed to represent. Most of us think that she's another person caught in this half-dead state, but we don't have any confirmation. Although, on the off chance we're right, the higher-ups started an operation to infiltrate the usual suspects. CI, SHGOC, etc. Make sure none of them have beaten us to the punch. Oh. The cultists, the other organizations. Assuming Tony understands this well enough, we're going to give him the go-ahead to interact more with the girl and report back. Day 5. Imaging results. A sky covered in gray clouds, no precipitation observed. Static. A teddy bear, a stuffed animal crow, and a girl all sit around a table. The girl offers tea to both the teddy bear and the crow. Neither party reacts. He proceeds to pour tea for the two regardless. A warm shade of yellow. Same as the other image, except the teddy bear somehow has a grip on the teacup, and the crow is facing the teddy bear. The girl appears to be conversing with the stuffed animals, despite their lack of responses. A light shade of red. And as the previous image, except the crow has started to fall apart at the seams. Insects crawl out from between the stitching. Neither the teddy bear nor the girl appear to notice. Flickering between dark red and black. Formed at 1600. Same as image 4, except the insects have eaten parts of the teddy bear. The girl appears surprised and upset. After 5 minutes, she glares at the stuffed crow, which is now mostly covered in insects. She then sets down her tea and leaves. A man in the corner of a room, curled into the fetal position. He rocks back and forth. His body appears to be swollen and covered from small insect bites. Day 5 notes. I think half of our group is starting to get more and more uncomfortable with the creepy crawlies. I can only imagine what it's like for Tony. We're giving him a day to recuperate from whatever the hell the day was. No exploration or interviews or whatever. In other news, we made some progress on the girl today. She looks almost identical to Tony's younger sister Joyce from when she was 8. Keyword, almost. I can't tell if it's Tony not quite getting the image back right, or if this thing actually just looks like Tony's sister, but with slightly elevated cheekbones and a slightly darker shade of brown in her hair. Or maybe that's how Tony remembers her sister. Or maybe there's just some kid out there who looks almost like her. Honestly, those details probably aren't super important. I bet tomorrow our talk with Tony will clear things up. Okay, day 6. A man sitting with his back against the dirt wall. Plant roots and bones protrude from the wall and ceiling. He appears to be tired and sweating. A single question mark. The man from the previous image is holding a doll of a small girl and a doll of a crow. He positions them next to each other, with the girl's arm around the crow and the crow's wing around the girl. The man shrugs. The man is sitting with his back against the wall of the room again. After 5 minutes, his head jerks to look off screen. He quickly gets up and rushes out of the room through the opposite direction. After 3 minutes, a swarm of insects enters the screen. White. Shit. He's fucked. Damn it, Tony. Fuck. Okay. Breather. Sorry, future me. I shouldn't use these notes for vetting. Luckily, it won't show up in the formal report. Anyway, Tony he didn't learn much about the girl. At least not much that he told us. I think she's friends with the bugs, or with the crow thing at least. Or maybe they're the same entity. They're definitely connected. Now, we're all waiting for Tony to get back to us. Luckily, we've got coffee. Yo, what's up, 420 King Bong? Good name. We're just reading some SCP Wiki today. How you doing? And welcome to the stream. Day 7 imaging results. A man running through the garden of daisies. He appears to be limping slightly and checks over his shoulder at regular intervals. Flashing between bright red and black. Day 7 lab notes. That was it. He's just still running. Been trying to think of something to help him. Jared floated the idea of sending him some bug spray. I know he was joking because Jared can't help himself from being a wise ass when he's stressed out. But maybe he's onto something. Going to look into how to send Tony a care package tomorrow. Cheers 420. Oh yeah, I forgot my stream title is I forgot my stream title was, it's funny. Blazing, bro. Day 8 imaging results. A man is running through a garden. After 30 minutes, he passes by a girl who appears to be planting something. He calls out to her. The girl turns around. She is planting another daisy. The man rushes to the girl and takes her by the hand. The girl begins to say something but is cut short as the man pulls her back to the path and resumes running. The newly planted daisy remains the focus of the image for another 2 minutes before it is overrun with insects. White. Day 8 lab notes. Okay, we've got something. It's a little out there, but it's all we've come up with. So Tony's in a half-death state, right? But it's not like this is a conventional afterlife deal. It was built around a more abstract conceptual representation of death. I hit like Thumbs up, cheers. Fascinating. So that means that all half-dead things could end up there, right? Okay, the dead things end up there too, but we're less sure what exactly that looks like. But I can't believe I'm even writing this. But if we half-kill a thing... Okay, yes, that is as dumb as it sounds, but we want to send something in there to help Tony. We don't have another agent who is as willing as him to take up this assignment. And I'll be damned if we lose our best shot at exploring this place. I don't know if Tony has things or how inanimate objects really work on the other side, but we're grasping at straws anyways. Jared figured if we're going to send him something, we should send him some sort of self-defense. Unfortunately, we're a little short-handed in terms of weaponry. So we're going to send him the next best thing. A lighter. Bugs don't like fire, right? I mean, maybe they're not literally bugs, but fire is generally effective against things. Either way, it'll work fine to test it. Procedures. Number 1, partially disassemble the lighter. 2, place lighter in 3448. 3, activate 3448, and at the same time, try to finish disassembling the lighter. Maybe use like a firecracker for this, or like a mousetrap. I don't know, we'll figure it out. God, killing a lighter sounds so dumb, but fuck it, we're gonna try. This is the ideal reaction. Oh. Formed at 0400, a man running through a garden carrying a lighter in one hand and pulling a girl behind him with the other. As the man runs, he looks confusedly at the device. After 4 minutes, he pockets the lighter. A teddy bear the size of an average human sits against the door to a room. The walls consist of mud and dirt, with bones and roots sticking out. The girl from the 0400-0404 sits at the opposite end of the room, with her legs pulled against her chest. She rocks back and forth, slowly for 3 minutes before walking to the teddy bear. She begins to speak as she tugs on the teddy bear's legs. The girl appears to age rapidly the more she begs. The teddy bear does not move. A man is standing in a garden. He is constantly stung and bitten by a thick swarm of insects. A girl screams at him from nearby, ignored by the insects. The man looks at the girl, screams something back, and then reaches into his pocket. Red static. A bonfire. Gray. A girl repeatedly stabs a man lying on the ground with a sharpened femur. They are surrounded by burnt insect corpses. Day 9, lab notes. Holy fuck, it worked. And then Fuck, I don't know what really happened. The entire past week has felt like I've been watching someone's acid trip. We still don't know what that girl is, but stabbing Tony means she's hostile, which means we need to do something. I called in a favor and got a handgun delivered here. Same procedures with the lighter. Day 10, imaging results. An old woman beats a man lying on the ground with a fever. They're surrounded by burnt insect corpses, some of which are moving. A little girl is straddling a man with her arms in the air. The man aims a handgun at her. They are surrounded by teddy bears, all of which are looking at the girl. A cocoon sits on a tree branch where all the leaves are replaced with hands. The cocoon breaks open and a moth exits. Same as the previous image, except the teddy bears are all grasping lighters with the flames exposed, and all of the garden is on fire. A bullet can be seen halfway between the handgun and the girl's head. Bright red. Same as previous image, except that the flowers are replaced with chains, which are still burning. The girl has been replaced with a skeleton, but her hair remains. The man has become further emaciated, and also resembles a skeleton. A chain wraps itself around both the man and the skeleton of the girl. Teddy bears look on from the darkness. Dark red. The bullet penetrates the girl's head. Static. A man stands in the middle of a garden. All the flowers that can be seen are blooming. Insect corpses rain from the sky. The girl is no longer present. A stuffed animal crow lies next to Tony with a bullet-sized hole in his head. Oh. After 13 minutes, the following words appear at the bottom of the screen. I hope you enjoy your hike, Dad. Day 10 lab notes. Oh, fuck. What even just... Shit. I don't think I've ever been so torn over one of my experience working twice in a row. But still, he shot her. I mean, of course he would. We gave him the gun, but I can't believe it. Like, I didn't actually think that was going to happen. Again, what else was going to happen but just... Fuck. Then, like, 5 minutes later, the calls started. First, it was from Joyce talking about how her father wasn't dying. I told her to contact me if anything strange started happening with her family, which might be related to Tony. But this wasn't a calm, informative call. She was just so excited, panicked, static, terrified. I don't fucking know. After that was the call from 054, only council member that knew about our little project. Signed off on the funding and everything. He congratulated me on our success, and then told me to burn it all. That's probably when it sunk in. It really should have been apparent from the start. It was in our contract. It's what we told people on the first day. This project has a single objective, containing the Dameron-class cognitohazard known as death. We did it? No, we really didn't do it. All those years of theorizing and studying the data, scouring anomalous burial sites and halls from MTF raids, and finally we come face to face with the Reaper, and what do? We fucking shoot her. Now all we have is a tombstone reading rest in peace, resting in peace. We fucked up. We didn't contain death. We neutralized it. Even death may die. And there is the chains, the skeleton, I'm guessing this is death of the girl and the daisies. Wow, Reaper. Oh, this is interesting. There's a lot to read here. There's a lot to read here. Damn, dude. There's so much shit to read about. I hit like. Cheers. Thanks, man. Pretty sure you said that already, and I just now read it again. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Fuck. Alright, well... I think that's gonna be the end of the stream for the day, guys. Been 2 hours. This isn't gonna be very long. Not as long as the last one, anyway. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for hanging out for a while. We're definitely gonna do this again. This is a lot of fun. I like doing these. Hopefully we can do these at a time where there's more people that show up. So there are more people who can enjoy and suggest readings and stuff. Yeah, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll see you Wednesday. Yeah, so have a good Monday and Tuesday. See you guys. Bye, Reaper. Thanks for hanging out.